wholly out of place.
Alec Doughty had the intention of producing a snuff film, but was arrested before he could do it. Jeffrey Jones had made a tape that was never found. But a case in Germany suggested the snuff movie industry might be more than just an urban myth.
Stefan M., 28, und Malik K., 35, hatten gehört, dass für Pornos mit echten, ungestellten Gewaltszenen, sogenannte Snuff-Videos, viel Geld gezahlt würde.
In November 1997, the two men kidnapped a 24-year-old prostitute from the Christmas market in Dortmund. They tortured her in front of their video camera, but she escaped and led the police to a farmhouse near Hagen, where they were to discover something far worse.
During the course of the investigations, a body was found on the property. A 21-year-old Turkish woman who was a prostitute had been severely tortured prior to her death and had also been sexually abused.
On further investigation, they found a small torture chamber fitted out with carpet, so no one could hear the screams when they videoed their victim. They also found a tape.
The 2 minutes and 3 seconds on the video film that was seized made it clear what the perpetrators had done to her. You can see that the victim had to suffer the most agonizing pain for many hours. This has been amongst the most violent thing of this nature that police officers and myself have ever seen.
The prostitute had been brutally killed.
The murdered woman's body was found very tightly bound. Her head was totally wrapped in tear-proof sticky tape. Due to these circumstances, she died through suffocation.
Ernst Dieter Korsen was the sadistic torturer of the duo. A psychiatric report on him found that beatings and abuse were a regular part of his childhood.
During this period, his experiences led to a strong connection in his mind between fear, pain, and also lust.
In April 1999, Korsen and Mahn were jailed for life, becoming the first people in Europe to be convicted of murder while producing a snuff movie, which they'd hoped to sell in the USA for $16,000. It seems that the disturbing truth behind why no snuff movie had ever appeared before was that criminals had lacked the means to make one, but not the intent.
If you go back to the Moors murderers, Hindley and Brady, when they killed those children, they recorded the deaths on tape. It's certain, in my mind, that had there been video recorders in those days, they would have recorded those deaths on film as well. So when you think about snuff movies, they were creating snuff audio tapes. So the genre was there.
If access to video had given criminals the potential to make their own snuff films, the creation of the internet would unleash enormous numbers of potential buyers.
What the internet is the greatest invention in the history of mankind for people who have narrow and small sexual interests, or really any interest, to find each other.
San Jose police were amongst the first to recognize the dangers of the net. At the beginning of 1989, a detective pioneered going undercover in cyberspace by posing as a bisexual paedophile. He went on a sex bulletin board where he met Dean Lambie, 33, and later Daniel Depew, 27.
These were two individuals who began to communicate with each other about the possibility of kidnapping a child and making a snuff film.
During a 6-month relationship, the two Virginia men developed a plot to kidnap a boy from the northern end of their state. The plan was to keep him in captivity for 2 weeks, repeatedly molest him, each time torturing him to just short of death, eventually murder him and videotape the whole thing.
Why would you trust somebody you just started to talk to on the internet? This is not a smart thing to do, particularly when you're talking about abducting and murdering people. But again, it's this need for validation. A lot of these people communicate with each other because what they want somebody to say is, you know what I'm thinking about doing? I'm thinking about abducting a kid, torturing him, killing him, and filming it. Now, if you say that to your next-door neighbor, they say to you, you sick weirdo, what's wrong with you? I'm calling the police.
The anonymity of the internet lulled the duo into a false sense of security.
These individuals were placed under elaborate surveillance and monitored and watched.
In August 1989, when Lambie told the undercover police officer he had spotted a likely 13-year-old victim riding his bike and that he intended to carry out the plan at his Richmond home, police and the FBI were forced to act.
Are we going to wait till he grabs the kid and gets him in the car and then we're going to arrest him before they get to the location where they were going to kill him? I don't think so. So you have to move in pretty quickly.
Their plot, hatched on the internet, was foiled, and the two men are serving 30 years in federal prisons. Although Depew and Lambie were convicted, the increasing access to technology would make it easier and easier to capture death on camera and to distribute it without fear of being caught. Cyberspace, with all of its global opportunities, was calling, and Snuff was not about to turn away. With the invention of the internet, Snuff found its natural home. Any kind of deprivation was available online, and tracing those who put it there was complex and difficult. If a genuine Snuff movie was ever to surface, this is where it would be found. But the innovators in this area came from an unlikely source.
No, I mean, the closest thing I saw to a snuff film was one of those Al-Qaeda decapitations, and that was enough. Now you literally could go on your computer and type Al-Qaeda Daniel Pearl and click a video and watch this guy getting decapitated. And it's real. And it's horrifying. I can watch endless decapitations in movies because I know it's theater. It's a magic trick.
When we see people like Nick Berg and Daniel Pearl murdered on camera or pictures of it in the newspaper, you know, that tops anything that Hollywood could come up with. Because now, you know, the filmmakers are the terrorists who are making their own snuff movies and holding the world hostage with images of real horror.
The deaths in Iraq, where people have been beheaded, are probably not snuff movies as such. They are films that are being made for different purposes, the purpose being to frighten us all and as a weapon of terror.
But evidence that technology is enabling snuff to become a reality emerged in October 2004. A 37-year-old man lost his life to the latest phenomenon sweeping Britain, known as happy slapping, where acts of violence are recorded on mobile phones.
People are getting some sort of gratification, not necessarily sexual gratification, but they're getting gratification and so-called fun.
Knock one.
From torturing other people. And in the South Bank incident, obviously that was to the nth degree.
David Morley, a survivor of the Admiral Duncan pub bombing in Soho, became the random victim of a violent London gang.
Who was killed on the South Bank by a group of teenagers who were filming the attacks that they were making on people on their mobile telephones.
The teenage girl shouted, "We're doing a documentary on happy slapping." Then the attack on the pair began. Mr. Morley was repeatedly kicked and beaten. He suffered 44 separate injuries, and as he lay helpless on the ground, his head was kicked like a football.
The gang were arrested and prosecuted, and in January 2006, their sentence was handed down.
Today, the gang of 4 youths found guilty of David Morley's murder were sentenced to between 8 and 12 years in prison.
Had the gang charged their mates to look at what they produced, they would have had the perverse pleasure of fulfilling all the criteria required to define a film as snuff. Now, 30 years after Shackleton released his film Snuff, mainstream cinema is again exploring the concept.
On this website that I saw, you could just walk into a room and shoot someone in the head.
Eli Roth's new film called Hostel is based on a real website where users can supposedly pay $10,000 to travel to Thailand and kill someone for kicks.
I think I'm pushing the envelope in terms of, oh my God, this could really happen. I mean, we have such horrible atrocities happening to these people. And there's no monster. It's all done very realistic, and it's actually really disturbing. But I'm never claiming that it's real.
As in Hostel, no one dies for real in Snuff movie. It supports the argument that because it's now possible to make an utterly convincing fake, there's no need to take the risk of actually killing someone.
Gentlemen, please join me.
I want to show, like a magician who's broken the code, what the tricks are. It's the Dr. Strangelove of snuff movies because I think it's kind of humorous and piss-takey.
What is this candid fucking camera?
But at the same time, uncomfortable, makes you a little queasy. At the climax of the film, you purportedly see people physically harmed and tortured. You think this woman is having her head shaved and she's being tattooed. You think the guy's being, for sure, stabbed in his torso. It's done in a way that it's hard to believe it's not really going on. But I can assure you it's fake.
Yes, they will never release this movie. They don't need to. Because it'll be everywhere. All over the net. It'll be passed on from computer to computer. Unstoppable.
I've seen all kinds of films, and most people have seen films where for every standard that anybody is aware of, it looks like someone was murdered. Why risk killing somebody when you can make it look like you killed somebody, and to the viewer who wants to believe this, they're going to believe it.
And yet, the possibilities opened up by internet and mobile technology means there is less risk attached than ever in creating snuff for real. It now seems only a matter of time before a verified example comes to light.
This is a theme that really doesn't seem to go away.
It works quite well as a plot in a horror movie. Whether such things really exist, who knows?
The possibilities of recording things on film is as extensive as the human imagination is at its most perverse.
It's something about mankind, that there are some people that have the ability to do that to another human being, to take their life.
I'm not suggesting that there has never been a snuff film or never will be a snuff film. Certainly this is in the realm of possibility.
I wouldn't be surprised if there really is some kind of sick, perverted subculture that watches these films and that the real thing probably is out there.
Although the existence of an underground snuff movie industry is yet to be established, the idea of it refuses to go away. Unfounded allegations of snuff were first made against mainstream cinema, but now it seems likely that an amateur filmmaker could be the one to make a real snuff film. The truth is that snuff is probably already out there. We just haven't found it yet.